Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Jay, bringing us a 2023 NFC Power/Tier ranking video. We did the AFC a couple days ago. Now we are going to be doing the NFC. The categories we have are they are going to be horrible, out early, in the mix, the wild card, winning their division, or getting the #1 seed. The NFC is a lot less good than the AFC, so that's why I did the AFC first. If you haven't watched that, I would go watch that after this video. But in today's video, like I said, just going to be tier/power ranking the NFC in rating where I think every team will finish after the 2023 season is over. I hope you all enjoy. NFL is pretty much back in terms of the NFL season coming up in just a few weeks, so a lot of content going to be coming out pretty consistently on all the games. So if you guys don't want to miss that, make sure to like and subscribe. Without further ado, though, let's just get to the video. Starting off with our first category being horrible. Now, there are two teams that I think will finish in the horrible category for the NFC. The first team being the Cardinals. Now, I think the Cardinals not only have a legit shot to finish as the worst team in the NFC, but also in the NFL. There are really no good spots on this roster right now in terms of Kyler Murray. We could see him be healthy and ready to go week 1. Some people think it's going to take him several weeks to be back and be healthy, and by then he just may sit out because there's no point in coming back. They're already out of contention for the playoffs. So we really don't know if we're going to see Kyler Murray the whole season, if we're going to see him half the season, or if we're not going to see him at all. If I was Kyler Murray and I wasn't going to be ready to go week 1, I just wouldn't play at all this upcoming season. I don't see, even if he comes back week 1, I don't see them making the playoffs, and I think he just risks having another injury. So Kyler Murray most likely has played his final downs in Arizona. Maybe this will be his last year if he does suit up, but I think after the season he's not going to be a Cardinal. So with or without Kyler Murray, I don't think it's going to make a difference for this team. The offensive line is horrible. The receiving core is horrible. The defense is absolutely abysmal, by far the worst in the league in my opinion. New head coach Jonathan Gannon. I think they do have a bright future with him. But as of now, there's just not very much talent on the roster. They already lost DeAndre Hopkins, who is a stable piece of the offense. Buda Baker, their star safety, who's been a stable piece of the defense, has requested a trade. It is unlikely he's going to be traded, but it shows that he is not happy there either. So the Cardinals, horrible. I think they are definitely going to be one of the worst, if not the worst teams in the NFL. Moving on to the second team that I think will be in the horrible category, and that is the Buccaneers. It's pretty sad because the Buccaneers actually do have a pretty solid roster in terms of the receiving core. They have an okay defense. I mean, the defensive front is pretty good. The secondary is all right, but it's not a bad team. The main downgrade for this team is two things. One, the coaching. Todd Bowles, I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's a very good coach. And then the big downgrade is the quarterback situation, looking like it's going to be Baker Mayfield. And from what we've seen out of training camp so far and OTAs, he has not looked good. There were some reports saying that they may actually sign Carson Wentz just to get another quarterback in the mix. Kyle Trask looking like he will be the backup. But really, it's just between who's, worst versus worst right now between the quarterback situation for the Buccaneers. So it's not a good situation there at quarterback, and that's really the main problem. The offensive line, it's all right. But yeah, the main problem, like I said, is the quarterback situation. So we still could see someone like Carson Wentz or, another veteran quarterback out there who's a free agent get signed to them potentially just to get some more competition going right now, because really, as of now, the quarterback situation is pretty bad for the Bucs. So we'll see what happens in the future. But as of now, I don't see the Bucs winning more than like 4 games max. The only reason I could see them winning is because they're not in a very strong division with the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers. So I could see them maybe getting a few wins there just because it's an easy division. But even then, I don't see them being better than any of those teams. Moving on to the next column, we have out early. Now, these are teams that aren't necessarily going to be horrible, but they're not really in contention for the playoffs too late in the season, maybe like 5 to 8 wins at max. Starting off, we have the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears definitely have made a lot of improvements this offseason, and there's the possibility of Justin Fields having a big year 3 breakout. Even if all that's possible, I don't see them getting more than like 7 to 8 wins max, because in reality, this team is still not very good. The offensive line still has a lot of holes on it. The receiving core, even with DJ Moore, is just okay. I mean, yes, DJ Moore was a great addition, but other than that, there's not too many it's just an okay receiving core. It's not bad. I'd say it's like okay to decent, but it's nothing great. Defensively is pretty bad. The defensive front is horrible. I think they made a big mistake by not taking Jalen Carter in the draft because the defensive line is awful. Secondary is okay. They did get TJ Edwards and Tremaine Johnson in free agency this past offseason, which I thought were big additions. But other than that, the defense is still pretty weak. And like I said, the offensive line and the defensive line are still pretty bad. So if Justin Fields can break out and have a big year 3, DJ Moore still is great, maybe, 8 wins, I'd say, but I see them being capped at 8 wins this upcoming season. Moving on to the next team, we have the Rams. Now, I know you guys might call me crazy for this, but I really am not sold on this Rams team. Even with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp coming back from injuries, Matthew Stafford is getting old. I mean, we don't even know if he's going to be able to bounce back from his injury. Even if he does, it's still a bad team. The defense is awful. Now there's talk that Aaron Donald may be traded before the season starts, which I think would be a good move. You already got rid of Jalen Ramsey. You might as well get rid of Aaron Donald as well. So even if they keep Aaron Donald, it's still a horrible defense. It's a horrible secondary. Really, the defensive front is pretty bad, taking away Aaron Donald. So the defense is awful. The offensive line is horrible. Like I said, Matthew Stafford, we really don't know how well he's going to be after his injury. Cooper Kupp, I mean, I imagine him to, be back to his, his good years. But other than that, there are really no weapons on this offense, and I really don't see this team getting more than like 7 wins max. And like I said, it sucks because, I think they have a lot of talent in terms of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. But other than that, there is really no one on this roster that I'm excited to watch. And like I said, Aaron Donald, there are now talks that he may even be traded before the season starts as well, which I actually think it would be a good idea. If you're just rebuilding, you might as well go ahead and completely rebuild. On to the next team, we have the Carolina Panthers. Now, I think the Panthers are a team that has a bright future, and I could actually see the Panthers being in the playoff mix towards the end of the season. Right now, though, I think it's just a very young team, and it's not a team that I see going very far this season. Like I said, though, in a few years, Bryce Young fully developed, this young offense fully developed, I think it could be a team that is definitely a team that is consistently good, consistently making the playoffs. They are in a very bad division, which definitely helps them, but as of now, like I said, the offense is okay. I mean, Bryce Young, like I said, he's going to have his struggles. He's going to have his rookie moments. I still think he's going to be good, though. I think he's going to be their franchise guy. The receiving core is okay. I mean, it's pretty good considering they have a rookie quarterback. They got him with enough talent, but at the end of the day, it's still nothing great. The defense is pretty good defensive front, good offensive line, good secondary. So I think the Panthers could make the case to be like in the mixed team where they're fighting for a playoff spot down the road. But as of now, I see them getting like 8 wins max, and I think they could definitely, get I'm not saying they're gonna be like a 5-win team. I think they get like 8 to 9 wins. So you could argue in the mix, but as of now, I'm just gonna say they're out early. But I definitely think the Panthers will be one of the better out early teams, and I'll even put them in the front. And then the last team that I think will be out early, I have the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers, same thing with the Panthers. I think the Packers have one of the brightest futures in the league. It's just they are a very, very young offense. Jordan Love coming in. His receiving core is Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, both year 2 receivers. Jaden Reed, and they added one other receiver in the draft. I forgot. So they have 2 year 2 receivers, 2 year 1 receivers. Really, that's it. They also added the new 2 tight ends in the draft. So it's a very, very young offense. I'm kind of blanking on it. Oh, Luke Musgrave was one of them. I forgot the other one, but basically, it's a very young offense, and that is an offense that I think is going to be, a developmental offense, and an offense that I think in a few years is going to be a very dominant offense because they've grown together and they've really clicked together over the couple of years. So I think the Panthers offensively are going to be very great in a few years if Jordan Love really is their guy. And he has all the tools he needs. I mean, he was behind Aaron Rodgers for several years. Now he's coming into this offense, this Matt LaFleur offense. So I think the Packers, like I said, in a few years are going to be very good. But right now, in terms of that offense, it's just not going to be great. And especially in the NFC North, where you need a good offense to be competing against teams like the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears, I really just don't see that offense putting up many points just because it's such a young offense. Defensively, they have a really good defense, which I think will definitely help, like I said, in an NFC North with a bunch of high-power offenses. But at the end of the day, I just don't see this Packers team being too relevant down the end of the season. Moving on to the next category, we have in the mix. These are teams that I don't think will make the wild card, but I think will be in the mix, like, competing in the very last week for a playoff spot. Starting off with the Falcons. Now, the Falcons, I do think are being slept on a little bit. I know their quarterback situation isn't great, but they have a very good offensive line. They're going to have the best backfield in the league with Bijan Robinson, Cordero Patterson, and Tyler Algier. They have, if that receiving core can, Drake London, if he can have a big year too, if Kyle Pitts can step up, I think they could have a legit offense. And I believe it's going to be Desmond Ridder over Taylor Heineke. Either way, though, whoever the quarterback is, if they can just be consistent behind that really good offensive line, behind the good backfield, I think it could be a good offense. And then the defense, it's a pretty good defense. The secondary is majorly improved. Jesse Bates, Jeff Okudah. They have a pretty good defense. The defensive front is okay. Added Calais Campbell and Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison was in the draft, so they finally got Grady Jarrett some help. So I think the Falcons are definitely being slept on. Now, I don't think they make a wild card just because I think there's a few better teams above them, but I do think the Falcons will definitely be in the mix towards the end of the season, fighting for a wild card spot. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I don't think the Vikings make a playoff run this season. I know they made one last year. I don't think they do it again. I think they will have a very good offense. I think they'll have one of the best in the league. A solid offensive line, great receiving core. They did lose Dalvin Cook, which was a bit of a bummer. I think they have Alexander Madison. I know they have Alexander Madison, who I think will be a consistent, good running back. The main problem to me, though, is the defense. The defense is absolutely horrible. Lost Eric Kendricks. A lot of their main staple piece defensive guys are getting older. The secondary is pretty bad. They have a lot of young guys who really haven't been able to step up yet. So hopefully that young secondary can kind of step up. But I mean, I'm not counting on it. And yeah, they also lost Patrick Peterson, like I said, in the secondary. So the Vikings, I think they're going to have a good offense, but the defense, I think, is really going to weigh them down this year, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And then the final team that I think will be in the mix but not make it is the Washington Commanders. I know some of you guys might be surprised they're up this high. I'm actually really high on this Commanders team. I think Eric Bieniemy there as the offensive coordinator finally gets this offense going, gets it rejuvenated. I think Sam Howell can be the franchise guy for this team. I think he can be the franchise quarterback, and I think with Eric Bieniemy there to kind of help him and get him going, I think it's definitely possible. Jahan Dotson, I think he's going to have a big year too as well. Terry McLaurin, I think Eric Bieniemy really gets this offense going. Like I said, they have a decent receiving core, Curtis Samuel there as well. If he can unlock Sam Howell and get him to be his true potential and his true ceiling, I think they're going to be a very good offense. And then the defensive-wise, they have a really good defense. One of the best defensive fronts in the league, a very good secondary. They added Emmanuel Forbes in the draft. I think this is going to be a good Commanders team. The main problem to me, though, is the division there in the NFC East, the toughest or one of the toughest divisions in the league. I don't think they're better than the Eagles. I don't think they're better than the Cowboys. Maybe the Giants. I could actually potentially see them, splitting with the Giants maybe. As of now, though, I'm a little higher on the Giants, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders actually beat out the Giants for a wild card spot. I'll have to see how that plays out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little more close competition between the Giants and the Commanders. I'm really high on this Commanders team, and we'll see how we go into the season. We'll see if I'm right or not on this. And I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs right now. I'm not saying they're going to, sweep the Eagles or anything like that. But don't be surprised if down the end of the season they are at least, contending for a wild card spot. Because I know a lot of people are not really high on them right now. I know a lot of people aren't high on Sam Howell, but they're one of the teams I'm really high on that, it's kind of like a bold take, I guess you could say. And we'll see how it plays out, but I definitely am excited to watch this Commanders team and at least see how that offense goes because they do have a good defense. But like I said, at the end of the day, I think being in the NFC East just knocks them out of a potential wild card spot. And now we are actually in the wild card category, teams that I think will make the wild card, starting off with the New York Giants. I think the Giants are definitely going to have a good year, especially after getting Saquon Barkley back for this last year. I know there's a lot of rumors that he may sit out after the contract extension. Well, now he got a 1 year, like $11 million deal, so I guess if that makes them both happy, good for them. So they do retain Saquon Barkley for another year, which is big. The offensive line is looking pretty good as well. The Giants had one of the best drafts, in my opinion. They added Deontay Banks, John Michael Schmitz, the center, and they also added Jalen Hyatt with their first 3 picks. All great picks, in my opinion. I think they nailed the draft. So I think all 3 of those will be like instant plug-and-play guys who will make an impact right away. I think the receiving core is much better. I think it's the best Daniel Jones has ever had. Like I said, they paid him this offseason, so I think he's finally going to kind of have a breakout year. He kind of had it last year, but I think he's going to really prove why he deserved that money this upcoming season. So I think the offense is going to be pretty good. Like I said, the defense, I think they'll be good as well. Good defensive front. Deontay Banks was a nice addition to the secondary, and I think they do make the wild card. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks, again, I don't think this is going to happen, but I could definitely see them beating the Niners. I think the Seahawks are being one of the most slept-on teams right now. Look at the offense. This offense last year was projected to be one of the worst in the league. Geno Smith balled out. The receiving core balled out. The offensive line actually did pretty good with Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross there. This offense has only gotten better. Now they added Kenneth Walker not Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet to get a good RB2, who is going to be used a lot, as well as Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that offense has the case to finish as the offense number 1 this season. I think they could definitely be the best, highest scoring offense in the league. And then defensively, they added some help on the defensive front. And then the biggest one, in my opinion, was Devin Witherspoon in the secondary, who is also great against the run. So I don't think it's going to happen as of now, but I think it is definitely possible that they beat out the Niners for the NFC West. Like I said, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm putting the Seahawks in the wild card, but don't be surprised if it is a very close run for the NFC West title. And then we have the final team that I think will make the wild card, and that team being the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are another team similar to the Seahawks that I think are going to be majorly improved than they were last year, and I could see the Cowboys competing for the Eagles for the NFC East title. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Eagles are still better than the Cowboys, but I think the Cowboys are going to be a very good team this upcoming year. You look at the offense, they added Brandon Cooks. I think he's going to be wide receiver 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. That was a big addition. They did lose Dalton Schultz in free agency, which was a bit of a bummer, but I think Brandon Cooks was a nice addition to the offense. And the defensive additions, they added Stephon Gilmore in the secondary, and they also added Mozzie Smith in the draft to get some help on the interior defensive line. So I think the Cowboys are going to be majorly improved. They already have made some improvements this offseason, so I think they're definitely going to be a good team. Really, the big debate right now is who is better between them or the Eagles. I personally am a big believer in the Eagles. I think they got better than they were last year, and I think they're going to be even more dominant than they were last year. Some people think the Cowboys are, though. It's really a 50-50 debate right now from what I've seen, at least on Twitter and social media. It's 50-50 between the Cowboys and the Eagles. I'm riding with the Eagles, but that doesn't mean I'm not a fan of the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to be one of the most improved teams, and they already made the playoffs last year, so it's going to be interesting to see how they go with the new offensive coordinator, no longer Kellen Moore. That will be interesting, but I am very high on the Cowboys this year, and I do think they are going to be a very good team this upcoming season. Moving on to teams that I think will win their respective divisions, starting off with the worst division in the NFC, the NFC South. I think this is going to be won by the Saints. There hasn't been a lot of debate here. Pretty much everyone can agree that they think the Saints are going to win. Really, they're the best team in the South. There's not much debate there. And, I mean, I think the Saints could actually be a good team. They have a good defense. They have a good offense. I think with Derek Carr there finally having a good, consistent quarterback, I think that's really going to open up the passing game. Michael Thomas coming back. Chris Olave, he's bound to have a big year too. So I think this offense is going to be good. The only kind of concern is Dennis Allen, the coach. Not a lot of people like him, so that is going to be something interesting to see how that goes in this upcoming season. Defensively, they're going to be great. They added a interior defensive lineman in the draft. I forgot his name. Brian Brzee added him in the draft with their first rounder, so that was nice to get some help on the interior defensive line. And I think the Saints are going to be good. I mean, I know they kind of get overlooked because they're in the NFC South, but I do think, if Derek Carr can at least be consistently good, I think they are definitely going to be a good team, and I do think they make they win their division with somewhat ease. Moving on to a division that is a little bit tougher to predict, I'm going to go to the NFC North, and I have it being won by the Detroit Lions. Now, I think the Lions are the best team in that division. I think offensively, they're going to have one of the best offenses in the league. You look at the offensive line, one of the best. They added Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I think that's going to be a very good backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's great. They will miss Jameson Williams for the first 6 games of the season, which is a bit of a bummer, but once he gets back, that's just going to make that offense even more explosive. They also added Sam Laporta in their draft to fill in the role that TJ Hawkinson left. So offensively, I think they're going to be great. I think Jared Goff is going to have another big year. I know they drafted Hendon Hooker. I think he's just going to be on the bench, at least for the first year, depending on how Jared Goff plays, but I think Jared Goff is going to be great. Defensively, they're great. They added Jack Campbell in the draft, get another linebacker in there. The secondary is majorly improved as well, which is going to be nice, like I said earlier, in a division with a lot of high-power offenses. So I think the Lions win it. I think Dan Campbell's a great coach, and I think this is the year they finally go through, they make the playoffs, and they really make a statement in the league. And then the last division winner I have being the San Francisco 49ers. Now, like I said earlier, I do think it's going to be close with them and the Seahawks, but I do think they plug through and they go ahead and they take the division. Offensively, they're looking pretty good offensively. The only concern or kind of question mark is who's going to be at quarterback. If it's going to be Trey Lance, if it's going to be Brock Purdy. I think it's kind of depending on how well Brock Purdy's hand can heal before the season starts. But someone made a good point and said you still want to start Trey Lance and just see what you have in him because he's really unproven at this point. So it's going to be interesting. We really don't know who's going to be the starter yet. I have heard reports that if Brock Purdy is good to go by week 1, he will be the starter. So that's going to be something to look out for is how well his hand heals. But I'm not sure. Either way, though, I don't think it's going to affect them too much because, either way, one of them will be ready to go by week 1. And then if not, Sam Darnold is there who's, at the very least, a serviceable backup and, the time needed. So offensively, I think they'll be fine. Defensively, they're a monstrous defense. I think they're going to be one of the best in the league. So I think the Niners win it. I think they get the 2 seed right behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who I have winning the number 1 seed and winning the NFC. I'm very high on the Eagles, and I think they could go back to the Super Bowl and win it this year. Offensively, they've just, not too much changed offensively other than the fact that they got DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. I think 2 very underrated running backs who could both have big breakout years behind that solid backfield, behind the solid offensive line. The receiving core is still great. Defensively, it's great. They had one of the best drafts in terms of defensive-wise in the league. They added Jalen Carter, which was a steal in my opinion, and they also added Nolan Smith, another great steal, both in round 1. That defensive front, if you thought it was good last year, and it was good last year, it was the best in the league, it's going to be even better this upcoming year. Secondary, they did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but they replaced him with Keely Ringo, I believe, who I have heard he has been working in the safety position, so that'll be interesting to see how the secondary is. But I'm very high on this defense. It is a very good defense. They have a lot of younger guys who are primed for big breakout years. So I'm very excited to see this Eagles team. I think the one not concerned but kind of question mark is how they go without their offensive and defensive coordinators. Now they no longer have Shane Steichen or Jonathan Gannon at defensive and offensive coordinator. They do have new ones, so that will be interesting to see how they adjust. But I think they'll be fine. I'm very high in this Eagles team all around. I think they're the most complete team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they finish with one of the best records, not only in the NFC, but in the whole NFL. But yeah, guys, that is my 2023 NFL NFC tier ranking / power ranking video before the season starts. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys have any disagreements, let me know what they are. I'm willing to talk about it. If you guys agreed with anything, let me know. And just let me know what you guys think about it. I hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said, the NFL season is coming up very soon. So from here on out, it's going to be a lot more consistent videos. And then once preseason starts and once we have, the full updates on teams and everything, I'm going to be getting a lot of videos out today. Actually, the day I am finishing recording this video, July 27th, we had the news that Joe Burrow, Jalen Ramsey, and Garrett Wilson all suffered injuries today at training camp. So that's interesting. I could get a video out probably towards the end of training camps on all the injuries and all the updates on teams, but that was something interesting to look for. And only day 2 of training camp for most teams, and already 3 big injuries to 3 major players. So that's interesting to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Jay, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.